All right, hello, and welcome to Ferguson Library Presents Intermediate Microsoft Word here on this Tuesday night, Tuesday, September 8th. So thank you everybody who's joining me here. Tonight we are looking at the second class in our Microsoft Word series. Last week we did Basic Word, and if you want to check that out, the recording is up on our YouTube channel, so you're welcome to go. You should be at the YouTube channel right now, so when this class is over and you want to go back and kind of refresh what the basic class covered, or if you're jumping into this class here and you don't feel like you're ready to do the intermediate class, you can go back and watch the recording for the basic class, follow along with that, and then this class here will then be available as a recording that you can then follow up on. So if you are here tonight and you want to kind of follow along with me tonight, I recommend going to the website right up here, fergusonlibrary.org/online-tech-classes. And if you go to that address, so you'll want to open up a new tab in your browser because obviously you want to keep this video playing. You go there, it will take you to this webpage. So this webpage here is our class resources for our technology classes here at the Ferguson Library while we're doing them online. Kind of moving down quickly, there's some things that have kind of changed on here since if you've done any of our classes before. I've kind of updated and kind of made this page a little bit easier to use now. So right up here, we have a link to the YouTube Ferguson Library, the Ferguson Library's YouTube channel. So you're able to click through there and get to all of our great content that we're doing. Coming down, we have our upcoming class schedule. Right now, I have links to this is actually a link here to our basic Microsoft Word class. So when you're looking for that, you could just click here and that'll take you right to that. This is tonight's class. Next week, we're going to be doing Advanced Microsoft Word, and then we're going to be kind of working our way through some of the other Microsoft Office programs, Excel, PowerPoint, and then we'll be doing a class on like video editing and using recording software on your computer near the end of October. So it'll be every Tuesday until the end of October, and then we'll also have one Wednesday class here on October 28th, right before Halloween. So moving down the page further, we get into our section here with the online technology class materials and resources. Over here on the left of the page is all of the class resources for all the different classes that we have here. So for tonight's class, what you'll want to do is you'll want to click on the plus sign here next to Intermediate Microsoft Word. Come down, there's going to be the exercise handout. So when you click on that, it will open up the PDF here, Microsoft Intermediate Word. So this will be our exercise handout that we're going to be working through the different exercises for tonight's class. Let me get back to here. And then there's a couple of exercise files that we need to kind of, in order to be able to follow the exercise, that you'll need to download. So one of them is this practice document here. This is where we're going to be doing kind of a lot of our practice work. I'm going to be showing a skill, and this is where I'm going to be showing them, is in this document here. And then there's some images here. So to download this one here, what you want to do is right-click with the right mouse button, and you'll open up your right-click menu. And you'll want to go down to Save Link As if you're using Firefox. It'll be something similar if you're using Chrome or Safari. You'll say something similar to Save As on there, and you'll want to save that. And it's going to be a .docx file. So you want to download that to a place on your computer that you'll be able to get to conveniently. If you are going to follow along with me tonight, you will need to have Microsoft Word installed on your computer to be able to follow along. Moving down, we have our exercise images. So what I'm going to do is kind of show you briefly how to get the exercise images. If you left click on exercise images, it's going to open up a new page. It will at some point. Waiting for it to load. Okay. So while that's loading, let me just kind of show you the other thing over here. Over here on the right now, this is a new thing that I've added for the class now, is that if you have a question during the course of this class, you can either ask it in the YouTube chat. I'll see that there, so send me a chat message in there, ask your question, and when I feel I will see your question, and when I feel like it's a good point, I will stop and I'll go back and answer your question. If you don't have a YouTube account or you don't want to sign in and use that on there and such, you can use actually the chat room here. So they're right over here. You can come in and you can type a message and say that you have a question about the class, and then hit enter, and it will send the message there, and then I will see that message and be able to see it there. So there's two different ways that you can kind of interact with me while I'm doing this class and ask questions. Either use the chat room right here on the web page, or use the YouTube chat. So now it looks like, okay, so now this page here has loaded finally. And so what happens is that there are several different images on here. You don't have to download all of them. practice what we're going to be doing in the class. So you can choose 2 or 3. What you'll do is you'll left click on the image, and what it'll do is it'll load up the image by itself on this black screen. Right click on there and do save image as, and I'm going to actually show you because I need to download one more. I'm going to click on here, I'm going to do right click, save image as, and then I'm going to choose a folder. I have a folder here that I've named MS Word Intermediate, and so I'm just going to keep the name. I'm just going to click save. And now what it'll do is that will download that and save that on my computer so that I'm able to actually use it. Moving on. So those are just kind of some of the, and then you can go back and download the other pictures. I will give a little bit of time for people to go and download these the handouts here if they need them. But I'm also going to just kind of go in and just kind of quickly kind of go over either attending classes here on YouTube as well as what this class itself will cover. So as I mentioned, if you have a question anytime during the stream, please ask it in the YouTube chat or ask it in the chat box on the webpage here, online-tech-classes. You'll probably want to leave that page open while you're doing everything else, so that you can come in and ask a question and see that if you want. So if you have any questions about that, let me know and I'll be able to see it. What you're seeing on the stream is is slightly delayed from where I'm presenting. So if I seem like I'm going ahead and I don't seem to like see your question or pay attention to your question, you're about 20 to 30 seconds behind where I'm at this point now. So again, if you do have a question, send it. I will see it and I will stop and answer it when I think there's an appropriate time to do that. Now, most of you are probably watching this where you're watching this on your screen on your computer, and if you want to be able to follow along in your Microsoft Word, you're going to have to kind of jump between the YouTube video in your browser and Microsoft Word to kind of follow along with the exercises. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and for each of the different skills, I'm going to demonstrate and explain the skill that I'm using. And then I will then give you a few minutes, depending on how long I think it takes to do that kind of skill on there, where you can then, I'll be quiet. You can just kind of go back to Microsoft Word and practice the skill, showing kind of what I demonstrated. It's a good time to ask a question that if there's if you're not really understanding kind of what I did there, or you're trying to do it and it's not working the way that it should, ask me the question and I'll help kind of walk through kind of where the confusion may be in that situation. I usually have some notes on this here. I'm kind of forgetting right now kind of where I'm supposed to mention. Asking questions, demonstrations. Okay, I'll think about it when I come up on there. So we're looking at intermediate Microsoft Word. So what are we going to be covering in tonight's Microsoft Word class? So coming into this class, some of the things that you should already know, because these are things that I'm not going to be going over while I'm dealing with the class, going through the class. So things like creating a new Word file, saving and opening a saved Word file, changing the font size and format of the text. So how to enter in text into a Word file and how to do the formatting. All of this stuff was covered in our basic class. So they're not things I'm going to be covering here in the intermediate class. And how to change this justification. So things about how to format and put in text into a Word document, we're not going to really cover tonight. What we are going to be looking at is we're going to be looking at ways to kind of insert and add to your Word documents using some of the other kind of features that Microsoft Word has. So we're going to look at how to insert and edit images in Microsoft Word. So now in Microsoft Word, it's not just text and letters and words that you're putting in. You can also put in pictures and images to augment and add to the text that you're working with. We're going to look at how to insert and edit a table in Microsoft Word. So tables are basically just an arrangement of information, usually in a grid. Something similar like you could use in Microsoft Excel. Excel, you kind of arrange things on a table. So we'll be kind of looking at how to put one of those into Microsoft Word. We're going to look at the header and footer of the page. So the header is at the top of the page. If I hold this up, you can kind of see the header is at the top of the page up here. The footer is down at the bottom here. And so there's often where you can put title and author information, page numbers, things that will show up on every single page at the top and bottom, inside the top and bottom margins of the page. And then finally, we're going to do an introduction to styles. Now, styles is a major part of Microsoft Word, how it handles formatting and how it handles formatting between different computers and between different documents and how things look, and allows. And so we'll look at what styles are and why you want to use styles. Now, next week in Advanced Microsoft Word, knowing styles is useful because in order to do some of the things in in Advanced Microsoft Word, we have to use styles in order to do some of those certain things, like for example, creating a table of contents. So we'll look at styles. We'll look again, as I mentioned, that we're going to look at what they are and why you want to use them and why you want to get familiar using them. So if there's any questions about that, please ask them in the chat. But from there, we are actually going to proceed on with the class. So I am going to move over to my demo screen here. So I'm back in my demo screen, and we're going to go into Microsoft Word. So when you open up, as you should know by this point, when you open up Microsoft Word, you open up into the Backstage view here. And so for today's class, what happens is we're going to start by looking at how to insert and add images to your Microsoft Word document. So what we want to do is we want to actually have a document to work with, and I've already provided that for you there. That's actually here on this page here. It's this exercise practice document, so make sure that you download that and open that up in Microsoft Word. So here, let me go and open that up. So I'm going to go to Open, and I'm going to Browse. For reference, I am using Microsoft Office. I'm using Microsoft Word 365 here in this demonstration. This is going to be very similar to Microsoft Word 2019, which is the other latest version of Word that's out there. It's also very, very similar to Word 2016. So if you're using any of those versions there, everything that you see here should match pretty closely to what you're doing, to what you should see on your own screen. I am looking for MS Word Wikipedia. There we go. And I want to open this up. There we go. So I'm opening up. There we go. So now I have my thing open. If you're using an older version of Microsoft Word 2010 or Microsoft Word 2013, things might look a little different. Everything that we're doing in this class, you're able to do in those earlier versions. Just the way to get to them might be a little bit different. So if you are having difficulty with that as you're following along with the class, let me know in either of the chats, and I will then kind of explain where to find that tool or reference if it's not in the same place as what you're seeing on my screen here. If you're using an older version of Microsoft Office 2007, again, all of this stuff is capable in all of those older versions as well too, and it should be actually reasonably close in how to do it. But if you are confused or and you want me to go back and just kind of repeat or re-show something, just let me know in the chats and I'll be able to go back and do that there. So what do we have here? This is the exercise document. This is just a generic kind of document file that I've been working with my classes for a bunch of years now. And all it is just a body of text with some formatting there that we can play around with and kind of see how all these different kind of actions and words, or how all these different things that we do are. So during the basic Microsoft Word class, I covered a lot. I introduced you to the ribbon here, which is the tool interface that Microsoft Office has in all of its Microsoft Office software in Microsoft Word. So last week's class in basic Microsoft Word, we spent a lot of time here in this Home tab, doing some of the home things on here. So we looked at things like how to work with the clipboard, how to change fonts and justification. Tonight's class, we're actually spending most of our time over here in the Insert tab. So here on the top, you can see we go Home, we go to the Insert tab. My God, don't tell me this here. And so you can see this is where, I mean, the Insert tab is aptly named because what it is it describes all the different tools that you can have to name or to insert things into your Word document. So you can see we have insert things like a cover page or a blank page. You can insert them into your document. Tables, we'll be looking at this just a little bit later after we look at pictures and images. But yeah, you can see this is where we find our insert table option. And here you can see insert pictures, shapes, icons. Moving over, we get things like inserting links or like bookmarks, or doing things like cross-referencing allows you to kind of link different parts of your document together. If you get really complex, kind of building more complex documents where you have ideas in one that need to be described, say like in an appendix or a definition later on, you can build cross-referencing between those things. You can see here's the header and footer. We'll be looking at those later on in this class as well too. And there's some different objects kind of that you can also insert here. And I highly recommend after this class, if you want to kind of continue your learning, it is really useful to just kind of get into Microsoft Word and kind of play around with it. Use this file that I've given you here and just kind of play around with these different things. Try seeing what happens when you click and try to insert the things that I don't cover in this class. See what kind of options they offer on there. And because this is just a file, this is just a practice file, it doesn't mean anything. You can't break anything on there. And if it gets all really messed up, you can just go and download it and do a copy of it again. So get in there, have fun, and see what all these other things that I'm not going to have time to cover tonight can do. So the first thing we're going to do now is we're going to insert a picture into our document here. So what I'm going to do is I'm in the Insert tab, right over here under Pictures, because I want to insert a picture or an image. I'm going to click on it, and you can see the button on here has this little downward pointing arrow. So what this will do, what this kind of indicates to me is this indicates that when I click on this here, it's going to give me a menu of options to choose from. So I'm going to click on it, and you can see now I have an option here. I can either insert from this device, and what they mean is the computer that you're working on. Stock images, so there's Microsoft Office. I mean, I'm using 365, so I think it may give me some access to things that other versions may not. But there's a whole link kind of stock images out there. Some of them are going to be free, some of them you can pay for and use. And things like online pictures. So if you have a picture available online, you can go and grab it from there. I do highly recommend that if you are going to be using any pictures from online, it is best to kind of download them and save them to your computer so that you always have kind of a copy to work with, because you never know what's going to change online. The picture may be taken down, or the link may no longer work, and it might break what you're doing on there. So most cases what you want to do is you want to insert from this device here. So I'm going to click on this device, and by doing that, it's going to open up the standard Microsoft Windows file browser window here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to navigate. I'm going to go to where I downloaded the pictures for this class. And so I put them into this Microsoft Word Intermediate class. So here's those pictures that we downloaded from the website. Let me go back and show. The exercise images here. When we open this up, here's those pictures there. So I've downloaded those to my computer. So they're stored on this device, on my device. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose one of these pictures. I always kind of like this one here. I like the D one here with the overhead look of the bamboo. And what these are really is these are just pictures of bamboo, because the practice file I downloaded to work with in this class here was about bamboo. There's no other really reason for the whole thing. Okay, so let me undo that. Undo, and just kind of show that again. So we're going to insert picture, this device. I'm going to click on the picture, and then I'm going to click the little insert button down here. Same thing as like open or OK, whatever it is, insert. And what it did is now it's dropped the picture. So now you can see the picture is in my Microsoft Word document, and where it put the pictures, it put the picture where my cursor was. My cursor was at the very beginning of the document, so that's where it put that picture. So if I go and say click, if I scroll down and say click, like at the beginning of this sentence here where it says more and more, if I put my cursor there, and the cursor is, I'm going to zoom in to make it kind of easier to see on the screen. You can kind of see I have this like little flashing cursor here. That's what it's called, a cursor. That's going to indicate where, if I start typing, where the letters will start showing up, or if I insert something like insert a picture, where that picture will be put. So I'm going to go here, and again, I'm going to do insert picture, this device, and I'm going to grab this one here. I'm going to grab F, and I'm going to say insert. And you can see now is that it stuck it. You can see right there, there's the beginning of the sentence where I had the cursor, and there's the, and so that's where it put it. It put it where that flashing cursor was. Now you notice in both of these cases here, the picture I put in is big. It's a lot. It kind of overwhelms like how the whole page looks. I mean, you can see actually now is like we have one whole page. Let me zoom out so you can just kind of see what this page looks like. There we go. You can see the whole page. It's like half of it's taken up by this picture now. So the picture is too large. And so we'll want to be able to adjust the size of the picture. We want to make it the size that looks better in our document. You'll notice when we when we click on the picture here, or when we inserted the picture and clicked on it, Up here on the top on the ribbon, we have a new tab that says Picture Format. Now, if I go and click into the middle of this paragraph here, you'll notice that Picture Format right up here tab no longer exists on the ribbon. And the reason for that there is what's known as a context-sensitive tab, which means it only shows up when it's applicable, when there's something that's selected that you can work with that you need those specific tools. So when I click on it, you can see it's Picture Format. So it's the tools for formatting the picture in the Word document. It doesn't make sense to give access to those tools if you're not working with a picture. So that's why it's hidden, and it only shows up when you click on the picture. So let's do kind of a quick look at what's on this ribbon tab here, this context-sensitive ribbon tab that only shows up when we actually have a picture chosen. So over here we have something like remove background. This will remove, it says unwanted portions of the pictures. This is kind of a tool that's kind of built in. This may not be in all versions of Microsoft Word. So if I click on it here, it can actually say, oh, okay, so the sections there that are black here, it may not want to do. So actually, let's see, mark areas to keep. I can, yeah, so you can see I want to keep the bamboo here. But I don't want, say, the black background of it. And so you can see I can get kind of like detailed here about how, there we go. So you can see now it's kind of removed some of those sections there. Don't really want to do that there, so we're not going to discard all changes. So that's kind of one tool that's available there. We have adjustments. So Microsoft Word comes with some very basic image editing that you can do. So you can do things like make it brighter or darker if you need to, change the contrast. Is it sharper or is it more in focus? So if the picture is like a little bit off, you don't necessarily need to open it up in a like an image editor like Photoshop or Paint or anything to kind of make some changes. You can do that right in Word. Now, it's important to know that if you do make those changes, they only affect the picture that's showing up in your Word document. It's not going to affect the original file. So if you wanted to make those changes and you wanted to show up in other Word documents or other things that you're doing, you do need to use an image editor for that there. But if you just want to change it for that one time that it shows up in your Microsoft Word document, you have some of these things here. So you have things like corrections, so making things sharper or softer, putting things more in focus or out of focus, brightness and contrast, how bright or dark it is. Color, you can kind of go from like really saturated colors to black and white if you want to. Recoloring, you can kind of play around and kind of add in different kind of colorations if you're trying to match a theme that you have in your whole look. So if you're doing something and you have like a whole bunch of like green fields or things on, or like say maroon kind of things, you can make this maroon and it will kind of tie in with everything but still have that kind of look that it has. Artistic effect, so doing kind of different things like stained glass or what do they have here, like plastic wrap, kind of different kind of like tweaks. So these are similar to like filters that you see on like Instagram or that you're able to do in Photoshop to kind of tweak and kind of make a picture look interesting. Doing something like a photocopy or making the edge. There's some fun things to do here. We're just going to leave the image as it is. We're not going to kind of play around with this here. Transparency allows you to kind of make things appear behind the image, or like the image doesn't block out things as much depending on how transparent you make it. What I recommend with all of this stuff here and such is just get in, play around with it, see all the fun things that you can kind of do with kind of the different adjustments that you can do with pictures in here. Moving over, we have picture styles, and we're going to play around with this here just a little bit kind of there, but what they do is that it gives you kind of like, if I open this up, you can kind of see like a bunch of different like frames or different ways of presenting the picture in the document there, rather than it just being kind of flatly kind of stamped into your document there. We'll play around with that a little bit there. Things like borders. Are you going to have like a outline border that's going to go around things? Picture effects, things like shadows or glow, so there's a bunch of different kind of things you can kind of do here again to tweak or kind of change how the image shows up in your Word document. Moving further to the right, we have the arrangement. And so this here basically looks at the way that the picture interacts with the document, like where it shows up in your document and how it works with the text in your document. So when we inserted this picture here, we kind of stuck it right at the top. So everything down kind of got pushed down below it. Now, when you insert a picture in, I'm going to go here and open up position here. It comes in default, what they call here, inline with text. And so basically what Microsoft Word does is it treats the entire picture as like its own word, or like a letter that you type in your keyboard. And so things will, like, you could put spaces after it, you could put, but the text will work with it as if it's just like a really big letter that you've typed into your text. But then you get the concepts of things like text wrapping. And so what text wrapping does is it tells the text to flow around the picture. So if you wanted to, and so this top picture here, we're not going to see anything from there because it's sitting right at the top. But if I go to this one here, remember I stuck this one here like right in the middle of a sentence, or right in the middle of a paragraph. You know, actually right now it's still too big. Let me actually get on and talk and show you about resizing the picture. Because I started off this whole thing talking about how the images were too large for the space that they're in. So let's look at resizing the image. So we're going to look here at the far right of our picture format toolbar here. And you can see we have our size options here. So we have a height and we have a width. There's also a crop function. You'll also notice on the picture going around, we have these 8 little what they call handles. So these little dots are what they call handles. And if you notice, when I put my mouse over them, it changes from like the insert cursor, which is this kind of up and down kind of eye look. When I put it over, it looks like this actually double facing arrow. And so, you know, if I put it over here on the side, I get a kind of double facing arrow that points left and right. If I put it here at the corner, it points diagonally. And then if I put it down here at the bottom, it moves up and down. And it's the same thing as I move around. You can see this diagonally, this here. And what that does is that indicates, that tells you kind of like if you were to drag that handle, which directions you can change the picture. So if I'm here on the side, I can change this left side of the picture left to right. And that's what that arrow is kind of pointing there. If I put it up here on the top, I can change this top edge up or down. Now, if I put it at the corner, what it means is I can take this corner and I can move it diagonally down. And the reason, and a lot of times when you work with images and you want to resize them, you'll want to use these corner handles because they keep what's known as the aspect ratio of the picture. What is the aspect ratio? The aspect ratio is the width and the height of the picture. So you can see up here we have the height 4.88 inches and we have 6.5 inches. And so there's a certain relationship between them that makes the picture look the way that it does. Now, if I were to, like, say, make this narrower without making it also shorter, it's going to kind of squish the picture together. Let me demonstrate here. So if I grab this here and I move it this way, you can see the height is still staying the same, but the width now is less, and now the pictures end up getting squished. It no longer looks naturally the way that it should. If I undo that, remember from Basic Word, using Control-Z will undo things that you do. So it's really great to kind of experiment, to play around with. Now if I grab the top and move it down, you can see actually is that it's squishing the top bottom. So it's doing kind of a squishing this way. So it's keeping the same width, but it's shortening the height, and it will also squish the picture. So it's, again, doesn't look the way that it should. Now, if I grab this diagonal corner here, I always tend to grab the right side handles, but you can always grab whichever handle ones you want. But I'm going to come here to this bottom right corner. I'm going to click, and now I'm going to drag. You can see if I move up or down, it doesn't change the size. If I move left or right, just left or right, it really doesn't change either. But if I move it diagonally to the top left, it will resize both the height and the width at the same time and keep them changing at the same rate. So the picture always still kind of remains, that keeps that natural look that the picture had. So that's one easy way. That's the easy way to resize a picture in Microsoft Word, is that you drop the picture in. Don't worry about how big it is. It's going to end up being possibly like really big. drop it in there, and then you can resize it to the size that you need it to be. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually just resize this a little bit smaller, and small enough now that you can actually see this is now gotten pushed back onto this page here. This is still really big. We'll resize that in a second. So now this, you can also see now that I've resized this here, is that like the first line in my document here is now next to it, because this is still working in line. So this is still behaving like a letter or word in Microsoft Word, and so the rest of the text is working with that. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to also come down and I want to show you there's a second way that you can resize pictures in Microsoft Word. So I'm going to click on this second. Well, first what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this one here. I'm going to come up here and note, okay, so this is 1.7 inches and this is 2.26 inches. You know, we're going to simplify this here to 2.25. There we go. So now it's 2.25, something easy to remember. You can see when I did that there, this automatically changed to like 1.69. So these kept in the same aspect ratio. Now what happens is I want to take this picture here and I want to make it as close as possible to the size of this one here. Now I could grab the handle and kind of eyeball it if I wanted to, but that's not precise. That's not exact. So what I can do is I can come up here. I have this picture, so I've clicked on and selected this picture here. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to, for the width, I'm going to put in the same width that this one here ended up being. So this one here was 2.25. So I'm going to click on this one and I'm going to type in, I'm going to select this and I'm going to delete it. And then I'm going to hit 2.25 and hit my enter key. And what that does now is that it's now made this picture here the same size as, well, actually it is the same size. It's also 1.69. So it's made it actually the exact same size as the other picture. So that's one of the things you can do when you're working in Microsoft Word and you're putting in pictures, is that you can use those handles to manually resize the first picture until you find the size that works for how you want to do the formatting. And then any other pictures, if you want to keep them the same size, you can then note those dimensions there, and you can then type in and make all the other pictures match up to that same size. So it's useful if you're going to have, like, say, a bunch of pictures kind of lined up on the left side. You kind of want them all to have the same width, possibly. Or if you're going to have them kind of going across in the same row, you want to have them kind of maybe be about the same height. So you can kind of match things out so that they kind of all line up like on the edges and everything. Again, it's something you can kind of go in and play around with. So now that these pictures are smaller and not overwhelming our page so much, you can see now how the inline text is working. So like this one here, remember I put the cursor for this here right before the M on more and more, and that's where it put it there. So it's sitting right in the middle between these two sentences. What happens if I don't, but you can see it's also creating this big space above and below, because this is just looked at as like it's just a really big letter. It's like if I'd say take, we're going to go down and take, say, this M here, and I'm just going to make just that M really big. And you see, as I make it really big, it now behaves the same way that this picture is behaving. So that's what inline with text means. I'm going to just make this back to its normal size. There we go, back to our normal size. So that's what it means by inline with text, is that it basically treats the picture as like a letter that you've typed. I'm going to come back here and we're going to look at some of the different positions. So the other option is text wrapping. And what text wrapping does is that it puts the picture into a place on your document and then wraps the text around it. And let me actually demonstrate what that means. So I'm going to click here. What this is going to put it in the middle of the page. So it doesn't matter where I put the picture. I could have put the picture way down here at the end, but by putting this here, it will put it in the middle of the page, and then it will wrap the text around the edge. If I put it here in the middle, you can see the text wraps around there. So let me actually click on this, and you can see now the text goes here. Here's more and more. This is where it was sitting before, is right here, but now it's kind of flowing through. So this lives in the exact center of the page, and now the text will kind of split itself around it. So it's like water flowing around the image. Once you've chosen wrap text, so actually we're going to go back to inline text. So you can see we're back to this here and such. I can come over here and say wrap text and say we're going to do it a square. So if you didn't want to put it into like a specific place on the page, like this here will put it into like some very like 9 specific places on the page. I can also just tell it to wrap text over here, and there's a bunch of different kind of wrap text options. So here's that inline with text that we started off at the beginning. Square is the most common form of text wrapping, and what it does is it places a square around the image and then puts the text around that square. Now you're looking at these images that I have here. These images here are rectangles, so of course square works for them. But sometimes you get pictures that like maybe have like weird, like odd edges or something on there and such. And so square will make the text neatly go around. Might give some more white space that happens there. But there are ways to kind of, if we do tight, what it does actually is it kind of makes the text a little bit closer to the picture than it does on square. So you can see if I do this here, you can see here the distance between the text, this text here, and the edge of the picture changes. It's like I go back and forth. It's almost like it's pulsating back and forth like that. Through, can we get through? Oh, we're not gonna get through. Top bottom basically puts the text so that it's almost like the side of the image to the left and right. There's no space there, so it goes to the top, goes to the bottom there. Through, nothing's going through right now until I tell it to go, say, behind the text or in front of the text. So you can also put it behind the text. So now what happens is now if I do that there, the text is going over it. And so this is kind of like on the background of the page. This is kind of similar like what you would do if you wanted to put a watermark onto a document. This is also where, say, something like transparency comes in. So if I go do something like this here, now you can see it's kind of just like this transparent kind of light image on the background of the document, and you can easily read the text over it. As I make it more opaque, it makes it harder to read. The other option, so we're behind the text, we can also put it in front of the text. And now what it does is it's actually blocking the text. So instead of the text moving around the picture, this is actually like blocking. I could put it right here, and it's completely blocking the text that's behind it. And this is also kind of where transparency kind of comes in. So if I go something like this here, you can kind of still see the picture, and you can read the text from there. So there are reasons, like if you wanted to put in like censoring bars or redaction bars, you can use this image. You can do that kind of thing here. But in the wrapping, like if I choose square here, I can then drag the picture anywhere I want. So I'm clicking and holding and dragging the picture anywhere into the document to kind of make the text wrap around it as I want to do it. So if I wanted to say put this like here, like in the middle of this here, so that we get like some lines going above, some lines going below, put that right there. This one here is still doing that. We're going to do another square. Now you can see if I do square, because this is in the top left, everything kind of melds along with it. I'm going to actually see if I can move this. Oh, I actually want to put this. I want to put it up at the top. Okay, we'll do inline. And what I'll do is I will come here, and we will just enter and put that down there below. So yeah, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to give about 3 minutes. Go into your Microsoft Word practice document. What you want to do is you want to come to the Insert tab on the ribbon, come over to Pictures, choose this device, browse to where the pictures that you downloaded from the website, choose one of the pictures, click Insert, and then once it's in, you'll want to practice resizing it using the handles here, or using the size in the picture format tab up here, using the size tools over here, and then also try doing the position. So where is it going to get positioned, and play around with the wrap, like how is the text going to wrap around it. So I will give you about 3 minutes to do that. If you have any questions, please let me know in either of the chats. Alternatively, you can actually also follow the first exercise that we have in the exercise document here. So insert an image. So choose one of the bamboo at the top. We're going to resize it so it's a 3-inch width. So you're going to use that specific sizing in the size up in the top right. and then make the text wrap around the left side of the image. And then we'll do I'll show you how to do these last two steps here in this first exercise after you do that there. So please let me know if you have any questions, and take about another couple of minutes to do that, so about 2 more minutes. Alright, so hopefully you've gone in, and actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, as I mentioned, going through some of the exercises. I forgot about the exercise page here, so I'm going to go through and I'm going to, I've inserted one of the bamboo images at the top of the practice document. I'm going to resize it so that it's 3 inches wide. And then I am going to make the text wrap around it on the left side. So what we're going to do is we're going to go square, and right now we're going to put it over here on this side here. You know, I'm going to move this down further. There we go. There we go. So now the text is now wrapping around on the left side. And you're going to put this over. There we go. So that looks nice. So now some of the other things that we can do with the picture, now that we've have it in our Microsoft Word here, is we're going to look at, let's look at some of these picture styles. Remember I was talking, click on the picture here, picture format, and we'll look at some of these picture styles here. So what they can do is they can do some like really neat kind of like put frames, or you can see like change the, like this here kind of lays it like it's almost like it's like a picture laying flat on a table. So if I click on that, it's really kind of interesting. You can still see my handles around. You can see like the frame actually kind of reaches outside the handle, and the shadow reaches outside the handles. The handles still determine the size of the picture there. What we're going to do is we're going to actually change the shape. We're going to change the shape to kind of whatever we want. Picture effects. So yeah, you can do all these kind of interesting different shapes on here. We can make it round, we can make it circular like this here, so then it's floating. You can see now it takes up a lot more space than it did before, and everything kind of wraps around it. And then we're also going to put a border around the image. So I'm going to come up here to border, and you can see I can actually choose a color for a border. I can then choose like the weight, so we're going to maybe make, actually change, cancel. Okay, yeah, so this is picture styles. Yeah, it's fine. I'm just losing track of where I'm going. Sorry about that. The other thing that we can do here is we can also add in a border. So let's add in, let's make it a green border. And you can now see the border that I chose is green. If I go and choose like a different image that doesn't have a border, I can add a border in if I want to, and then I can make it green. So you can see these different tools go in and allow me to kind of add in and accentuate the image that's there. So I'm going to say go in, take about another minute, choose one of the styles that you want the picture to show at. So you can choose any of the picture styles here, and then come up here to the picture border, open it up. You need to come down to weight and choose how thick the border is going to be, and then choose one of the colors. So take about a minute and do that, and then we'll kind of we'll move on to the next part of this class where we're going to be looking at tables. So take a minute. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. All right, so I don't see any questions. So if there are any other questions about this as we move along, please let me know. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at inserting a table into our Word document and how to work with tables in Microsoft Word. What we're going to do is we're going to come down here to the very bottom of our document. I'm going to hit and click on here at the very end of the last line. I'm just going to hit enter to kind of go down to a new line. I'm going to hit enter another time just to kind of give some space between my table and the rest of the document that I have. I'm going to come back here to the Insert tab, and I'm going to click Insert, and I'm going to come over under Table. And for this case, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a table for this exercise that is 4 columns wide and 5 rows high. When I click on Table, you'll see I get this whole set of boxes that open up here. So I want it to be 4 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I want it to be 5 rows, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to click that, and now you can see actually it's put it over onto 2 separate pages. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to zoom in so make it a little easier to see on the screen. And so now what it's done actually is it's kind of, unfortunately, it's split my table between the 2 pages. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit enter one more time to kind of push that top down onto the bottom page. So now my whole table exists on the second page of this document. And then there's like a few empty lines in between here. There is a more graceful way of pushing that down to a new page than hitting enter key. We'll be looking at that next week during the advanced Microsoft Word, so don't worry about that right now. Hit enter key to kind of make things work. Now you'll see when I created the table, it makes it the same width as the text, so it lines up with all the margins on the top there, and it's made every single cell the same height and the same width. So everything's kind of equal in this table here. So the first thing we're going to do in this table now is you can see I can click into any of the boxes and I can start typing in those boxes. Typing here. And so what happens is tables end up being a really good way of also kind of arranging text that you can't normally do in Microsoft Word by, say, using spaces and tabs and enter. So what I can do is I can easily put some text here, and then I can put some text down here, text also here, and have them kind of like where they're kind of in their own separate, like basically inside the cell is its own separate like little grouping of text that I can do its own formatting inside there without affecting the rest of the document. I could make this line up like in this space here. So if I put more text here, I now know that these here all kind of line up because they're all in that same column there. Whereas if I have other text here, this all lines up with that one there. So tables not only allow you to help organize and present information, but they also will allow you to kind of format and show how it ranges on there. And then you can do things like you can get rid of all the lines, and then it's just the text floating in these like spaces that you chose on the document. So there's a really useful tool to kind of get comfortable and use, and you can do some really fancy things with it. I do also want you to pay attention that once we've created the table and we're inside, we've clicked inside one of the table cells, you'll notice up here on the ribbon, just like when we were working with the picture, we had a picture format tab up here. Now we have two new tabs. We have the table design, which basically allows us to decide how the table actually looks. And we have a table layout, and we're going to kind of look at some of the things here in the table layout. Don't let this kind of be intimidating here. We'll be looking at some of the different things that this can do as we play around with the information on our table. But just know that when you create a table in Microsoft Word, it's also going to create these two context-sensitive tabs when you're inside the table. So it gives you tools to work with that table on there. So for our exercise here, what we're going to do is we're going to put some information in this table that we can kind of start manipulating and working with and just kind of seeing how it displays. So into the first row, we're going to enter in the labels. So the first row is what I'm calling a header row. And so the header row it's a useful thing whenever you're designing tables in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, is to kind of label your columns so that you know what the information down below it is going to be. Because in like Microsoft Excel, like everything that's A, B, C, D going across, and if you're doing a lot of stuff, it can be, and you're scroll down very far, it can be hard to figure out, okay, what's in column C. But if you have a header row up there and you say, oh, column C is the telephone number, then you're able to kind of track that information a little bit easier. So the header row, we're going to put labels, kind of what each of the columns is going to have. So the first column here is going to be item number. Now to navigate, I can click into the next box if I want to. I can also hit the tab key on my keyboard. So the tab is kind of on the left side of the keyboard. It might be usually it's like the third key down. You have your escape key. You have like the tilde key next to the numbers, and then the tab is usually right next to it. It's right next to the Q on your keyboard. And so the tab will actually move your typing, your cursor to the next block or cell in the table. So it's just kind of a convenient way as you're working with tables. Instead of having to move and click over, I can just hit tab and move things over. Shift tab will move it back to the left. We're going to do item name, I'm going to do color, and we're going to do price. So those are going to be our 4 different columns going through. And then if you see on the exercise handout right here, we're in exercise 2. So here's those labels: item name, item number, color, price. And then we're going to change the shading of the top. So yeah, so we're going to go and look at how this. Now we've created our header row. We want to make the header row stand out from the rest of the table, because we wanted to say, okay, this is labels. This isn't information for the table to for the person looking at the table. They don't want to be they don't want to be using the information in this row. They want to use it as information. It's confusing now, but basically we just want to make this row stand out from the other ones there because it's different information. So you'll notice that I'm clicked inside the table. I've come up here. I'm in my table design tab on the ribbon. And right over here on the right is and so what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to highlight these cells. So I'm going to click and I'm going to drag this across like that. And so what happens is I've selected those 4 cells, my header row on there. I'm going to come up here to shading. And so you can see shading is one of these 2-part buttons. The top part here will automatically color whatever the default color is. And you can see underneath the paint can on here is this white bar. That's telling me that the default color right now is white. So it's going to tell me that the shade of the box, if I click on this here, will be white, which it currently already is. The bottom part of the button will open up and it will give me color options. And you can see as I move my my mouse around the palette here, you can kind of see it gives me a preview down below of what that color will look like. So since we're doing with bamboo, we're going to stick here with kind of this green here. I could come down here and just use one of these greens, but I kind of like these little kind of like little murkier kind of colors up here. So we're going to choose green, and you can see if I get too dark, it makes the text a little bit harder to read. So we're going to go a little bit lighter. Right there, that's good. We're going to choose this this olive green, this third one down here. I'm going to click on that, and now you can see now that this my header row now there is just a different color. I didn't change any other colors here, but yeah. So now it kind of just stands out. It makes it look a little bit more unique, a little bit different from the rest of the table. Now what we're going to do is we're going to fill in the rest of the cells here, and so I'm going to give you actually now time. We're going to give you about 5 minutes. Go into your Word document. Go down to the bottom, the very last, after it says that produce it, go down there, hit enter 3 or 4 times just to kind of like move the cursor down the page a bit. Then you're going to come over here to the insert tab on your ribbon, come down to table, and you're going to insert a 4x5 table. So we're going to do 4 columns and we're going to do 5 rows. So you can see how as I move it down, the orange one's there is at 4x5. Click once, and it will then create the table in your Microsoft Word document. Once you've created the table, go in and enter in the header rows, which are on your exercise sheet. Color it. So by doing that there, we're going to click in, oh, actually, we're going to highlight. I'm going to click at the beginning of item number and hold down my mouse and drag to the right to select the whole top. Up here under the Table Design tab on the top here, I'm going to come over to Shading. I'm going to click on the bottom part of the Shading button, and I'm going to choose, I chose this third green here. You can choose whatever color you want for your own exercise. And that will then color the whole box. And then fill in the rest of the box with the information that is on your exercise sheet here. So there's like 4 pieces, like 4 different items here with some pieces of information that you're going to go in and fill in the rest of the table there. So I'm going to do it here. If you have questions during this time, feel free to ask me in either the chat, so either the YouTube chat or the chat room on the online-tech-classes page. And I'm going to be working on filling this in myself, but it's a good time if you have questions. So take a couple more minutes. Let me know if there's any questions. Thank you. All right, so now that we've entered some information into our table, there's different things that we can kind of do to help organize this table here. We don't have all of the power that you have in Microsoft Excel, so you can't really, you can do some basic math, but for those kind of things, it really is better to kind of do those things in Excel. But we can do things like, for example, we can sort the information in the table here. So you can see right now, we have everything kind of listed by, the item numbers here aren't in order. So what we're going to do is let's do a quick sort by item numbers. I'm going to do that by right-clicking over in this left. I think it's right-clicking. Up there. Where are you? There we go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to the Layout tab in the ribbon. And over here on the right, there's this little data section. And what I'm going to do is I'm clicking into the left column over here so that this is the one that's selected. And there's a sort button over here. This is very similar to the sort function that you find in Microsoft Excel. I'm going to click on it. And when you look at this here, it's helpful to look at this box and think of it as a sentence that you're going. It kind of tells you you're explaining the order of how you want things to be sorted. So at the beginning, at the top here, it says sort by. So sort by. In this case, we're going to sort by item number. It's telling us that this is a text using paragraphs, and we want it to ascend. So we want it to go from the smallest number to the largest number. You notice down here, there's this little thing that says, and then if I wanted to sort within, like, so suppose I had a bunch of item numbers that were the same. Like suppose we had A054 for bookshelf here, and then we had, say, a bunch of, maybe 3 or 4 different colors, but they all had the same item number there. We could then say sort by, like, color alphabetically or something. So you can then by, like, item, and then you can then do it alphabetically. So what happens is, because it's recognizing that this is text, it's going to actually sort it actually alphabetically because we have the A's in front of it there. So, we're going to leave it with that there. So sort, so we're not going to change any of the settings. Sort by item number, text. You'll notice down here, it tells me my list has a header row. And what that's doing is that by telling that, it's telling you that this top row here is information. So instead of it saying first column, second column, third column, it's actually pulling the information from that first row because I've told it's a header row. Also, what it will do is that when it sorts, it will not sort this. It will leave the header row at the top of the box. So that's always kind of the thing to kind of pay attention to. And that's why it's always nice when you plan a table, is plan to do a header row or like a first column that you can then you can tell it that, okay, this is a special row or a special column, and don't sort it, don't filter it, keep it the way that it is and treat it, and then use the information in there to label the info. So like here, so yeah. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hit OK. And now you can see this is now all in order from 54. And it took the rest of this information and carried it with it. So instead of just sorting this one column here, it sorted every single row in the right order. So to kind of show how that looks again, I'm just going to click in here. I'm going to do sort. And instead of sorting by item, let's sort by price, and let's do descending, just so you can kind of see how that's different. So what I'll do is I'll start with the most expensive thing and descend down to the least expensive thing. But now you can see now it's sorted by price on there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here. We're going to sort again because the exercise asks us to sort by item number. Downward, sorry, ascending, not descending. There we go. So now we have our numbers here in order. And what we're going to do now is looking at this table, I realize, whoop, there's another item I need to have on my inventory list. And I look at it, and the item number is A725. Which falls here in between A663 and A903. Now, what I could do is I could just add another line and then resort, and it'll kind of sort everything in. That's one very legitimate way of doing it. But we also want to look at how to insert rows and columns. So as you're working with a table, you don't always have to be exactly sure at the beginning how many rows or columns that you need. You can always go in and add more or remove them as you continue working on things. So make your best guess when you make the table, and then adjust things as you're working with it. So here I need to insert another row. So you notice right here, I'm still in my Layout tab here on the ribbon. Right over here towards the left, I have, there's a rows and columns section here. And so there's a delete, which allows me to delete information. I can delete cells, which are each of the little boxes. I can delete a column, I can delete rows, or I can delete the whole table. So the delete thing, be careful with this, especially if you've done a lot of work on there, but it's there if you just want to get rid of the whole table. Now you'll notice also now I have these 4 other buttons here. There's insert above, insert below. So these are my insert row buttons. And it's pretty clear what they'll do. This one here will insert a blank row above the one that I'm currently in. Insert below will insert a row below the one that I'm currently in. Now we also have insert left and insert right. And so what these will do is these will insert columns. So like insert right here will insert a column here in between item number and item. Insert left will insert a new column over here on the left side. And then what happens is all the columns and everything will automatically shift size to kind of make sure that everything's equal on there. Right now we want to insert a row, and since the number that I'm going to be inserting is A725, it's in between 663 and 903, I want to insert a row below 663. So since I have my cursor in A663 right now, I'm going to come up here, I'm going to click insert below, and it's just, boop, there we go. We have a new row right in our table there. And then it's really easy for me to come down here and start typing A725, bamboo shoe rack, it's natural color, and it is $55.98. Oops, $5.98. There we go. So now that now once also the text that's in here, so you can see it's really easy to go in and add and remove columns if you need them to do. Now you'll notice that once I have the text in here, the text in Microsoft, just like it's because it's in Microsoft Word and Microsoft Word is a word processor, I can do all the different formatting and editing to this text that I want. I can change the fonts, I can make them bold, I can make them underlined, I can change the size, however I want. So to show that off, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make actually the item numbers here, we're going to make them all bold. And so I'm going to do that as I'm going to actually click at the top, at the top row, and then I'm just going to drag my mouse down. You can see as I drag it down, it only selects that first column there on the left. I'm going to come over here to my Home tab, and I'm going to click the bold button right here. I'm just going to click bold, and you can see it just made all the text bold, just as if I was making text in my document up here bold. There's no difference. It just behaves that way. That's how that works. So the final thing that we're going to do now, in working with our tables here, is we're also going to insert a column into our column here. And so what happens is that we have our item number, we have our items, color, price. We're also going to add an in-stock column. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click, and I want it over here on the right side of my table. So it's going to go item number, item, color, price, and then have in-stock over there. So I'm going to move over here all the way to the right column here. I'm going to come back to my layout tab on my ribbon, and I'm going to click insert right. And you can see now it's inserted in a new column. All of the columns have now, the sizes of the cells have all shifted. So everything's kind of still equal in size. You'll also notice that the top box here shares the same green with all the other one there. So Microsoft Word is kind of intelligent. It's like, oh, this is a header row, and you've designed it to look this way. We're going to make the header row of this new column match the other ones. So I'm going to put in stock question mark here. And then we're just going to do, let's see, the bookshelf is in stock, yes. The storage bench is not. Shoe rack is yes. The coaster set is yes, because nobody wants to buy coasters anymore. And the knife block is no. So you can see I was able to easily add in a new column, add a new row, and the formatting kind of all lines up and matches with kind of what it did before. So I'm going to take about 2 minutes, go in and insert a new row in between, in the middle of your table. It doesn't have to be exactly in between. Add in the 5th line of information that's on your exercise sheet. So this is right down here, right before the end of page 1. Then you're going to go and you're going to edit the numbers to make them bold, the item numbers. So what you're going to do is you're going to highlight that first column, don't highlight the header row, the top row, but highlight all the ones underneath. And come over to the Home tab and make them bold. And then, continuing following the exercises, we're moving on to page 2. Insert a new column on the right side of your table, enable it in stock, and then fill in the column with yes or no. And if you want to, you can do this last one, sort the table by price. I already kind of showed sorting by everything there, but you can play around with that as well too. So take about 2 minutes, and then we're going to move on and look at the header and footers of the document. If you have any questions, please leave them in the chat. Alright, so I'm not seeing any questions, and I hope you've had enough time to kind of follow this here. So now we're going to be moving on to looking at the header and footer. And so what I'm going to do on my document here is I am going to zoom out so we can kind of get a better sense of the whole page again. There we go. So now we're looking at the whole page of the document. So the header and footer are ways of kind of entering information onto the page that is not part of what they call the body of your text. The header is this white section right up here above everything else there. So this is the top margin of your document here, and the header exists inside of this top margin. The footer, because the head is at the top of the page, the foot is at the bottom of the page, exists in this white margin down at the bottom of the page. And you can put all sorts of different information onto the header. Now, for the most part, and I'm going to explain for the most part later on, but for the most part, when you put in a header, it's the same information onto every single page. So it's useful to put, say, something like the author's name on there. I mean, actually, if you've ever read a book and you're looking at the book and you notice that, like, at the top of the page, they have like the title of the book or the author's name, that's being put in the header of that page. You'll also notice that things like page numbers get put in the header or footer of the page. They either get put at the top of the page or the bottom of the page. You'll notice actually on the handout that I gave you, there's the page number down there at the bottom right. That's in the footer of the document. I put the page number in there on the handout. You can put things like dates. You can put whatever text or anything that you want into the header. Just know that it will show up on every single page, with a few exceptions. And I will talk about those exceptions when we're working on that there. So, how do you work with the header? So what I'm going to do is I'm clicking into the text of here. I'm in the first page. It doesn't matter where my cursor is. I'm just going to come in down here. There's a couple different ways that you can enter the header or work with the header or footer in a Word document. The straightforward way is we're coming back here to our Insert tab, because that's kind of where we're spending tonight, in the Insert tab. And you'll notice right now there's a header and footer section right over here. So I'm going to Insert Header. So when I click Insert Header, you notice once again it has this little downward pointing arrow which tells me it's going to open up a menu, and here's the menu that it opens up. And so it gives me some options. I can actually choose some of these fancy options if I want. But for the most part, what I like to do is I like to choose this blank 3 columns one here, because it gives me the most flexibility on how I work with my header. So I'm going to click blank 3 columns, and now you can see the rest of my body text down here, the rest of my document is kind of grayed out. It's kind of like obscured. There's like a fog over it. It's still readable, but it's not as crisp or clear as it was before. And the reason for that there is that it's no longer active. Instead, you can see where my cursor is right up here on the top now. You can see this marks header. This marks where the header is. This is the area that when I start typing or working, it's going to be up here in the header there. If I scroll down, you can see here's that footer section. So this is a good definition of where that header and that footer is. Now, up here at the top, so what we're going to do here is by choosing the 3 columns, it's given me 3 different places that I can start putting in information. So what I'm going to do here, over on this left one here, I'm going to type WWI, so it's Worldwide Importers, space, inventory sheet. And then I'm going to delete, I'm just following the exercises that are on the exercise sheet right now. So we're just working on these here. I'm going to delete the middle column. So by doing that, I'm just going to click here. You can see it's kind of selected with this gray, and then I'm just going to hit the delete key on my keyboard, and it just kind of wipes that one out. So I only have 2 columns. I started off with 3 columns. I now have 2 columns. And then over here on the right, I'm going to put today's date. Today's date is September 8th, 2020. And actually, so what I'm going to do, actually, that's not right. That wasn't right. I'm going to actually undo. Control Z, undo. There we go. So what I'm going to do here actually is that I'm going to actually insert the date. I could physically type in the date like I did there. But what I want to do is I want to make this date automatically update. So that what happens is that if I print this document today, it would print with September 8th, 2020. But if I open it up and print it tomorrow, it would say September 9th, 2020. So how do I do that there? You'll notice that when I'm in the header up here on the top or in the footer, once again, we get another one of these context-sensitive tabs on the ribbon. We get the header and footer tab that gives us all the different tools that we can work with in the header and footer. Over here, you can see we have header, footer, page number. This is the same set of tools that we had in the insert tab. So we already looked at this here. Then over here, there's its own little mini insert section where we can insert in different parts into our header or footer. So there's things like date and time, or there's like document info. So document info has things like the author or the file name or like what the document title is. And this is all information that you can actually get to in the backstage view. There's things like quick parts. So, and I do recommend kind of going in and exploring kind of what all these kind of different things can kind of do. Like things like all these document properties here are things that pull from that backstage view, things that you can enter in either about Microsoft Word itself or about yourself as the author or about the document itself. So there's kind of different areas where you're able to pull all of that from. Field, there's like different kind of fields you can enter in. A lot of this here kind of makes more sense when you start working with things like with Microsoft Excel, with Microsoft Word, you can kind of pull in information. But what we want to pay attention to here, you can also put a picture. You could put a picture, you could put like a logo into the header on your document. So if you wanted to have a logo show up on like every single page, you could insert a picture and you could browse. Like if I wanted to say put this like bamboo picture there, I can stick that there and then resize it to say 1/2 inch. And then this will then show up on every single page up there. So you can, there's a lot of flexibility that you can work with when it comes to in the header and footer. So what I'm going to do here is I want to insert the date. So there's this date and time insert tool up there. So I'm going to click date and time, and what it's going to do is it's going to give me an option for like what format date do I want to have. Do I just want to have it with the slashes like we commonly write it nowadays? Do I want to have the day of the week and have that all go through? I'm going to actually choose this third option here where it's September 8th, 2020, because I like that little bit more formalized view of that there. Yeah, you can see there's like a whole bunch of different kind of options you can kind of choose down there. It'll also choose things like time. So like right now it's currently 8:21 as I'm doing this here, so it can actually pull that specific time. So I'm going to choose this third option here. And you'll notice right down here in the bottom right, if I hit OK right now, it's just going to put September 8th, 2020. When I open it up tomorrow, it will still say September 8th, 2020. But if I check this box here that says update automatically, boop, now if I open up this document tomorrow, it's going to say September 9th, 2020. If I open it up next week, it's going to say September 15th, 2020. It's just a way to kind of update. And so That's a useful tool to do that if you want to be able to like always have like the updated date on your document that you're handing it to somebody, and so that you know like which version document you're giving them. You're giving them the September 8th version of the document compared to the September 9th version that you'll give them tomorrow. You can have this automatically update, and whenever it prints out or opens up, it will automatically update that. So I'm going to say update automatically, hit OK, and now you can see it's entered September 8th, 2020. Now remember I was talking about how when you put something into the header, it shows up on every single page. So I'm going to go down to page 2, and you can see right up here, there's the WWI inventory sheet, September 8th, 2020. If I had 4 more pages, if I had 50 more pages, if I had 100 more pages, this same information would show at the beginning of at the top of every single page. So I don't have to go to every single individual page and enter this in. By putting this into the header, it automatically, very easily puts that onto every single page and makes that formatting very easy. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go down to the footer on our document here, and to go down to the footer, you notice that there's several different ways. I can either scroll down and click down into the footer down here. You notice that our body of our text is still grayed out, so we're still in the header or footer sections. There's also a navigation. In this navigation, I can go to the header, which will jump me up to the top of the page, go to footer, which will not jump me down to the bottom. So down here in the footer, what I'm going to do is I'm going to insert a page number. We're going to just insert just a page number over on the bottom right of the page. Actually, let's do it in the bottom center, because we've done top and left and right there. So I'm going to come up here to page number. And you can see I come down and I can choose bottom of page. And then there's like some different, like there's a bunch of different options there. I mean, I could get really fancy, and you can customize. You can do some different kind of things with this here. But for this exercise here, we're just going to stay with the plain numbers. In the exercise, I said plain number 3, which puts it over on the right side. I'm actually going to put it here in the middle for plain number 2. I'm just going to click that there, and you can see there it's just dropped the page number. This is page 1, and if I scroll down to page 2, there's the 2. And again, if I have 4 more pages, if I have 50 more pages, if I have 200 more pages, by doing this here, it will then number all of them automatically. I don't have to go through and manually do that kind of work. So it's one of the beauties of working with the header and footer in the documents. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to just kind of quickly step through each of the steps that I did here, and then I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to go off into your own Microsoft Word and do the same thing so that you're kind of caught up there. And then we're going to look at some of the different ways that the header and footer works. So let me go back here. And as I mentioned, so if you click anywhere into the body of your text, it doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to come to the Insert tab, and you're going to come over here kind of to the middle of the Insert tab, and you're just going to come here to Header, and you're going to choose the blank 3 columns header. And so once that opens up, you'll be up in the header. Your cursor will move up to the top. The rest of your body here will gray out, and you'll have 3 sections there that says type text here. Click on the first one on the left. You're going to type in WWI inventory sheet, because it's worldwide importers inventory sheet. You're going to click on the middle one. It's going to get selected. It's going to turn gray or blue or whatever, and then you're just going to hit the delete key on your keyboard to erase it. And what you're going to do is you're going to click over on the right one, and you're going to come up here to date and time on the header and footer tab, and choose any of the formats that you want. I like this third one here that has the that's a little bit more formalized with the time. Check update automatically so that it automatically gets updated as you work with it, and then hit OK, and then I'll insert that there. And then the final thing that you'll do is you can go here and click the Go to Footer, which will take you down to the bottom. Come over here to Page Number on the top left of the header and footer, and choose bottom of page, and then choose one of the plain number options there. I chose 2. The exercise chooses 3. You can choose whatever you want. So take about 2 minutes and go off and do that there. And if you have questions, you can either ask it in the chat in YouTube, or you can ask it in the chat room on the online-tech-class pages. Right, so has everybody entered in the information into their header and footer? So I just want to kind of demonstrate another kind of easy way to get access to the header and footer in your Microsoft Word document. So if you're in the body of the text and you want to go start working up in the header or footer, you just need to go up and actually just double click either at the top or the bottom of your page. And what that will do is that will automatically enter you into the header or footer mode in Microsoft Word. And then to get out of it, you can then either just double click down in your body, so you can double click anywhere down in like the middle part of your document, or you can click this big X in the header and footer section here where it says close header and footer. You can click that and that'll take you back to your body. And then you can see actually I can't actually change the header and footer on here unless I go back to the header and footer mode. Now, when I first started talking about the header and footer, I did mention that I said that the header and footer that you put onto the page will be the same on every single page with some exceptions. So I just wanted to kind of explain what those different exceptions are. And so you'll notice I'm back in my header up here. So I'm back in the header and footer mode, and I have my header and footer ribbon up here. And you'll notice right here in the middle here, is this options section, and there's two checkboxes here. The first is different first page, and so if I check this, I'm going to actually check it. Boop. And so now what happens is you can see, if I turn it off again, where it said header, it has this little tab, this little flag kind of hanging off of this line here that says header. When I click this here, it now says first page header. And if I scroll down to page 2, this now just says header, and this shows the information I originally had in the header. What this does actually is this allows you to have like a front page, a first page that you have different information in your header and footer. So why would this be useful? This would be useful if you say want to put a cover page onto your document, because on the cover page you don't want to have that header and footer information. You just generally want to leave it blank. So what you do is you turn on this different first page that says that, okay, the first page should be different. It should have different header and footer on there in case you don't want to put any header or footer, or you want to put some different information in there. Like you might want to be able to put more information into the first page than you do the other pages. So by doing that there allows you to have a different first page than all the other pages. So if I had a 100-page document here, I would have one page that would have a different header, and then I would have 99 that would have the same header. The other option that's here is the different odd and even pages. So let me turn off different first page. Since I only have 2 pages, I don't have a lot to show there. So now if I turn that one on, you can see it says odd page header, and if I go down to page 2, it says even page header. Now you notice odd page header has the information that I've put into my header and footer. Now my second page does not, and the reason for that there is that now it will differentiate between if I have a odd page or an even page. I can put different information on an odd or even page, or I can arrange the information differently. So to take a good example is if you ever look at a book, and a lot of times on some books you have, when you open up the book, is you have on the left side of the book you have the title of the book at the top above all the text, and over on the right you may have the author's name on the text. And so what happens is they have a different odd and even pages. On all the odd pages, or on all the even pages, they have the title put on there, and then on the odd pages they put the author's name. You'll also see sometimes that there will be sometimes the page numbers will be at the opposite corners of the page. So on the left page, the even page, it'll be down at the bottom left corner, but on the right page, the odd page, it'll be down at the bottom right corner. So if you do different odd and even pages in your footers and headers, you could put the page numbers. In fact, actually, let's actually do this. Page number. Let's actually put this there instead. So now on the odd page, on the odd page, I have it over there. And now over here on the even page, we're going to put it over on the other side. And now what this does, let me zoom out so you can actually, oh, come on. You're not gonna allow me to put them side, but can I? No, okay. I was hoping I could see them side by side. I can, if I go to print, is it going to show me? Oh, oh, there we go. So now you can see actually now what they are. So I didn't actually. So now you can see now when I have this, it's a little. It's kind of hard to see. Sorry about that. This is not exactly working the great way that I wanted to do. But what it does is basically now on the go back, is that on the odd pages, my page number is over on the right side, and on my even pages, it's over there on the left side. So having the different odd and even page headers allows me to change. I'm going to back in so we can work on things. So by doing different odd and even pages, it allows me to kind of change how it looks on the odd or even pages, which is really useful, especially if you're going to be binding the pages together, like in a report cover or something. So that is the headers and footers. Now we're down to the last parts of this class. The last thing that we're going to be looking at tonight is we're going to be looking at styles. So we're leaving our insert tab. We spent most of tonight working with things in the insert tab, but we're going back to our old friend, the home tab, where we kind of spend all of our time in Microsoft Word. Now in the home tab, you can see there's this big section right here, this big, huge section called styles. And I always think that it's important that Microsoft Office, when the Microsoft people designed Word, they put this big section here. They took up most of the home ribbon. So the home ribbon is where you spend most of your time in Microsoft Word, doing things like playing around with fonts or justification or things, and they take up most of that ribbon there with the styles thing. So it's kind of an indication that this is an important part of Microsoft Word, and people should learn how to use it and what it actually means. So first thing we need to talk about is what are styles. So what are styles for? So styles, basically what they do is they allow you to basically choose, actually have consistent formatting through your document. So for every time that you have a title, or you have a section heading, or you have something that you want to emphasize, or you have a quote, I'm going to open this up so you can kind of see all the different things like book titles or captions. Like there's all these different like normal text or headings. So different headings, a title. You don't have to, in most cases, what most people do is like, okay, so they're doing a chapter heading, and they're going to decide, okay, this chapter heading is going to be Arial font, size 18, and I'm going to make it bold. Now they go through and they type that chapter, and they get to the next chapter, and they put in the chapter heading. Now they may not have remembered what font did they use, what size did they use. They have to then go back to the earlier chapter, find that information, and then go in and enter it in. And so they have to, and they manually do it at the head of every single chapter. Now, if they were using styles, what they could do is they could say, okay, so the chapter heading, I'm going to use heading 1, and you can customize these however you want them to be. And then it's just an easy thing to remember that when you do a chapter title, you're going to use heading 1. Now, the advantage of that is that if somewhere down the road you decide you wanted to change what that chapter heading looked like, what heading 1 looks like, you just need to change it in one place. You need to change it in this styles thing right here, the styles thing right up here, and it will change it everywhere else it got used in the document. Now, if I had 15 different chapters and I manually did the formatting for those chapter headings, if I decided to change it, I would then have to go to all 15 different places and change it the same way. Whereas if I chose styles, I would then just need to change it in one place, and it would automatically get changed everywhere else. So what it does is it allows you to be consistent with the formatting that you use in your document. It also allows you to be flexible in the design of that formatting, that you can change it at any time, and it will change it through your entire document. Now, there's also some structural things that the styles also use. So, for example, if I mark text as a title, it tells Microsoft Word that this text is a title, and to treat it differently than it treats normal text. So like a title might have different spacing on it. It might use a different font. It might look different. It might do different shading. But it also is something that Microsoft Word can actually pull and use as part of the document properties. Things like the heading 1, heading 2, and heading 3. By marking that text there, you're telling Microsoft Word that this text is special. It's not the normal. The normal is what you're normally typing in Microsoft Word. By using heading 1, heading 2, or heading 3, you're saying, okay, this text is a little bit special. Pay attention to it. Use whatever formatting that I've chosen for it, but it also marks it as being useful for other things. Like, for example, next week in Advanced Microsoft Word, we're going to look at how to create a table of contents. Now, to create a table of contents, you need to mark things with heading 1, heading 2, because what the table of contents does is it goes through the text and looks for where things are marked as heading 1 or heading 2, and uses that to construct the table of contents automatically. So then if that text ever moves, like so if the text ends up moving to page 3 instead of being on page 2, when you create the table of contents, it knows to look, instead of having to say, okay, it doesn't have to try to guess what the text is. Oh, there's a heading here on page 3, so that we're going to put that onto the table of contents. So that's what styles are. Styles offer a way to be consistent with your formatting, and it also provides information to Microsoft Word that allows it to use that text in different ways, whether it's document properties or building other functions in Microsoft Word. So how do you use the styles? It's actually pretty straightforward. So what happens is what we're going to do is on this first line up here, worldwide importers, I'm going to highlight it, I'm going to put my mouse over it, and I want this here, this is the title of my document. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to click title. And now you can see actually it's changed the text, it's made it bigger, and it's fitted in right there. I'm going to actually take this picture actually, and I want to move this down, so just so that the title gets its own line. So it's no longer, the picture is no longer kind of in the way there. This next line down here, I'm going to highlight this, and this is actually, because this is kind of, it's a title under the title, so it's a subtitle. I'm going to actually give it the subtitle style here. And you can see, once again, it's a different font, looks a little bit different. So now this is a title. If I click on this here, you can see it's in title. This is a subtitle. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight both of these. And what did I make those? Let me see what I have in the exercises. I can't remember. We're going to make that subtle emphasis. Okay. So there's a subtle emphasis right here. I'm going to click that. And you can see subtle emphasis is just like a little bit italicized. So now I've gone through, and you can see by clicking those there, it's automatically done some formatting changes. So now both of these here have the same formatting changes. I could have easily done that with the font and the change and all that there and such. But I'll be showing you why it's useful to use the styles fit there. So I'm going to go down further in my document. So each of the different headings here, so where it says beautiful bamboo, I'm going to highlight this, and we're going to make this, what did I set this in? Did I make this heading 1? Yeah, we're going to do that as heading 1. Heading 1. We're going to come down here where it says types of bamboo. We're going to also make this heading 1. And, okay, yeah, I don't have anything else. Okay, so I have those two there. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose, say, this line of text here, just to have a different style and such. I'm going to make this a quote. So it treats it as a quote in there. Okay, so set the style of, we're going to do the whole paragraph actually. So it's just actually the whole paragraph. We're going to make that as a quote. Quote. Make the whole thing quote. Quote. There we go. And you can see what it did now is it made it italicized and it centered it there. It did this kind of different kind of formatting changes that it did there. So now that I've gone through and marked things, and so everything looks a little bit nicer, everything's kind of consistent there. But now let me show you the real magic of what styles does. So now I'm looking, and everything's this kind of like, this is how my document looks. What happens if I want the document to look a little bit different? I am going to click on this little more option over here. And wait a second. This was something that actually changed. Okay, here we go. So what happened was, it used to be in Microsoft 2010 and 2013, there used to be kind of like a design styling thing that was attached to the styles here. They've moved that now to the design tab. The design tab now is, there's a whole bunch of different like pre-built kind of styles here that are kind of in place. Over here on the left are themes. Over here on the left, there's like a whole bunch of different themes that we can choose. And what the themes are is they are consistent kind of like styles for different different looks in your document there. And so I'm going to go through. I think I need to rewrite my yeah, I need to rewrite the instructions, because I said choose the fancy. We don't actually have a fancy theme. Is there one? Yep. Okay, so what we're going to do is going to choose theme, and we're just going to choose one of these themes. Let's choose this one that says basis. I'm going to click on basis, and now you can see what it's done is actually, see, yeah. So you can see as I move my mouse over these different themes, you can see the different text that I've chosen styles for are changing. So if I come and choose basis, this is a different font than it was before. Both of these here are different fonts. This is now green, whereas before it was blue. If I go back here, you can see this is still blue. Come over here, this is now green and it's a different color. So what happens is by choosing that there, I've changed the entire look of the document. You can see even down here, remember how I had chosen green for my my table header row? It was like kind of that green color. It's now, they actually even changed the color for that there. But it changed it consistently. So both of these ones here that I marked as heading 1 are now both, they both changed, and they both changed the same way. You can see there's also a bunch of different document formatting themes that are available here. There's some built in, and so like I can actually choose these, and actually like if I choose this, we get even more drastic kind of change. The font, like the title and the subtitle are now centered, and they're a different font. My emphasis there, these are now black instead of the blue, and they're a different font. The text is a slightly different font than it was before. What is it now? It's Garamond, whereas before it was Times New Roman. The quote kind of stands out a little bit differently. So what the styles and the design do is they allow you to change the entire look of your document without having to manually go through and do it all itself. So it is important that if you are going to be working with styles, and especially if you're working with a longer document where there's going to be a lot of different styles, start working with them from the beginning, because if you have to go back and change things, especially on a long document, you're inevitably going to miss parts, and then there's going to end up being typos, or it's going to look inconsistent. Some of the things that we can also do is we can come up here and we can choose colors, and you can choose, they actually have a whole bunch of, say, like complementary colors that they've selected for things. And actually, I'm gonna choose. There we go. This is a good one. This one here, this one's really different than what we've had before. So you can see that the titles and all of this here all stands out. Remember how the quote was centered before? Now it's not. So that's what using the styles do, is that they allow you. I'm changing all these formats with just a single click. If I come up here to colors, I can choose like a different color. Like I choose this here, and now you can see it changes all of these to kind of match and be consistent in that there. I even changed, again, my table down here that I had the color there. I can change the fonts to kind of match to kind of what I want it to be. Different effects you can do. There's a lot to kind of go in and play with it, but what the styles do is allows you to decide upon a look for your document and then remain consistent with that style throughout the entire document. And if you decide to change it, it will automatically change everything else that that style was using. Now we can, if I'm going to go back here, we're going to go back to Office, go back to our original, go back to here. You can also design your own style. So you're not always bound by like the specific themes that they have here, or the specific document formatting, or like the colors on there. If suppose I want my title here to look completely different, so I'm going to highlight this, and right now it's like this Calibri font. I'm going to actually change this. We're going to make this. Let's make this what I wanted to do is I wanted to choose. choose Hollywood Hills. I have Hollywood Hills on this computer here, so let's choose this one here. I'm going to make it Hollywood Hills, and we're going to make it yellow, so it just looks different, and we're going to make it bigger. Actually, make it that size. We'll make it 48. I can now that I've set the style, I've designed how I want this text to look, I can come up here to styles. I'm back in the home tab, and I'm going to come down, I'm going to do create a style. I'm going to click on this, and we're just going to call this title new. Title Hollywood. How about that? I chose the Hollywood font. Title Hollywood. Okay. And now what that did is, you notice right up here, it's now added a style right into all my styles here, and I can now set that style. If I come down here to types of bamboo and set that there, it will then match it on there. So you can go through, and if there's like a specific way that you, a specific font, specific way that you want your chapter headings to look, or your titles to look, or your text or quotes, or any of that kind of thing and such, you can go in, design the way that it looks. So choose the fonts and the colors and everything that you can do here in your normal toolbar. Then you'll come over here to styles, and you'll do create a style, and then just save it as a name. And then you can easily go in and use that style whenever you want to use it. So it's a very useful kind of thing. So with that, that is everything that we wanted to do here in this class for Intermediate Microsoft Word. I really thank you for attending, anybody who attended. If you have any questions, now's a good time to ask. I'll hang around. It doesn't seem like there's anybody watching right now, so if anybody did have any questions and you want to ask anything, I'll hang around a bit to see if there's any questions. Coming up in our schedule, let me go back and just open up the schedule here. Coming up on our schedule here, I am offering Advanced Microsoft Word next Tuesday night, also from 7 to 9, so same time, same channel here on the Ferguson Library YouTube channel. The link to access it is right here from the online-technology classes. In 2 weeks, we'll be starting with Microsoft Excel, so we'll be doing basic Microsoft Excel on Tuesday, September 22nd. The link will be coming soon on there. I just didn't want to inundate with putting in all of these upcoming classes onto the stream into the YouTube channel. If you have enjoyed this class, or if you haven't enjoyed this class, if you attended this class and you want to provide feedback on the online technology classes, there is, under the Intermediate Microsoft Word, there is a link here, which actually is not going to the right place. Where you'll actually want to go is up here, survey. You'll want to go to this link here. So you want to go to projectoutcome.org/responses/52597, and I'll actually update this link here. Actually, let me take care of that. Talk here and such. And so yeah, so if you had any questions, feel free to ask them. I'm just going to update this quickly so that you can click the link from the technology pages. But why am I not getting? Where came go? Here. And somehow my webcam turned off. Well, you can still hear me. I'm going to update that there. But yeah, so if you need to, you can go to this website here and enter in any feedback that you have for the class. If you have any questions in the next several minutes, please ask either in the YouTube chat or in the chat room on the technology page. I don't know why my webcam can't go. All right, so I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm going to be calling it a night. Thanks for anybody who came and attended. I hope to see you next week. And with that, I bid you adieu.